My next destination brought me to the beautiful city of Aix-en-Provence. I love driving in the neighborhood because they have a gorgeous forest and mountainside. My wife and I arrived in Aix-en-Provence in the evening. It has a cozy and lively atmosphere to it. The next morning, I went to the English bookstore called Book in Bar. There I had the pleasure to meet a very fine lady called Anne. She's not the owner, but she was there as of the start of the bookstore, and that was literally the day after 9/11. Anne explained that she and the owner Anne-Philippe were welcoming the guests for the opening event, but that there was a special atmosphere. On the one hand, the guests were happy for them that they opened the new store, but at the same time, people were, of course, also trying to process what happened just the day before. Now, things evolved very well for the newborn bookstore, and it is now a great place with a team of 6 people. I was happy to meet a part of the team. I met Anne, of course, and also Marine and Lucas. The bookstore has a nice cafe with smoothies, coffee, tea, and delicious cakes and cookies. Anne pointed out that the cafe is essential to the concept of the store, because it is a place where people feel welcome, like to meet each other and just hang out. And it is for them a place to welcome authors and hold conferences. When you are in the cafe, you can observe that it often does not take much before people from all over the world start to connect and talk with each other. This brings us to the positive influence a bookstore has on a local community. This is something that is often overlooked when people think about independent bookstores. A local independent bookstore nurtures a local community with events, book discussions, and by being a nice place to hang out and to meet people. This is yet another reason to me why we should support local bookstores. I visited this place several times in the last years, and from my experience, the Book in Bar team does everything to make their visitors feel welcome. By the way, even some famous people came to visit through the years. To name a few, John Malkovich came by, Hugh Grant, Sophie Marceau, and quite some others. So next to great people from the local and international communities, one can meet authors during organized events, and maybe you even may run into a famous actor as well. Now back to the books. I asked Anne, of course, which book she would recommend, and right away she said 3-Day Road by Joseph Boyden. She told me that this book was like a shock to her, because it is about the First World War. She pointed out that we might think that we know everything already about World War I until you read this book. Because I learned from her that this book is about the indigenous people from Canada who fought in the First World War. It is about their life before and during the war, and about how they tried to survive after the war when they returned to Canada. From our description, I remember that this is an intense human story. It is also intergenerational, and it is about a part of history that is not very well known at all. Thank you, Anne, for having me and for sharing your thoughtful insights about books. I purchased the following books at Book in Bar. The Order of Time by Carlo Rovelli. Why We Read by Josephine Graywood. No One is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. and Being a Human by Charles Foster. Now, if you are among the first 10 people who visit Book in Bar in Aix-en-Provence and you mention this episode by Bold Books and Bones, then the Book in Bar team will offer you a free drink. Thank you, Anne and team, for welcoming visitors from the Bold Books and Bones community, and thank you for the little present. I cherish the Khalil Gibran very much. As promised, we will stay in touch. Now, this channel is all about books and also about supporting your local bookstores. And therefore, I joined bookshop.org as an affiliate partner. Bookshop.org sells books online and gives a large part of its profit to local bookstores. And this unique business model is made to strengthen the local independent bookstores, to ensure that we can continue to have access to a diversity of books and to ensure that independent bookstores can play their important role in our communities. If you would consider buying any of the books that are mentioned in this episode or that are mentioned in any of my other episodes, then go check out the link in the comment section underneath. That link will bring you to the Bold Books and Bones place on bookshop.org and see if they ship to your country too. Or just go to your local independent bookshop and purchase books directly from them. The next day we arrived in the beautiful city of Lyon. I got up early to see the sunrise above the Rhone River. I am here because on the other shore, in the heart of the student district, is the next English bookstore that I want to visit. It is called Damn Fine Bookstore. With the owner, Fiona. Fiona worked as a dietist before and she wanted to give her professional life a new turn. She did several internships in bookstores to see if running a bookstore would be something for her, and it felt right. So she subscribed in a course in the School of Booksellers, where you learn the ins and outs of having your own book business. What was also clear from the start was that she wanted to offer her guests, next to books, also coffee and tea. She is a fan of the Twin Peaks show, and somewhere there is this scene where the main character says, "This is damn fine coffee," and that is where the name for her store came from, a damn fine bookstore. 2 years later, and after lots of hard work, she opened her own store in Lyon. Good things come to the brave. I like the concept of the store, because Fiona told me that some people feel a bit intimidated when entering a bookstore, and they are shy to ask for certain books, because they feel they might get judged. That was at least her experience when she was young, and I can absolutely relate to it. That is why she told me that in her store, everyone is welcome and you can ask for any kind of book since everyone has their own preferences. And even if you are not an avid reader, it is a cozy place where you can hang out. I asked Fiona for her book recommendation and she right away showed me this book called The Sea Women, written by Chloe Timms. It is a novel about women on an island who live in a religious community dominated by men. They are afraid of the sea women that are apparently dangerous creatures, so no one can go close to the shores. The women on the island marry young and they have their so-called mother year to become pregnant. If they don't get pregnant in their mother year, they get killed. One young woman, however, starts to ask questions and wants to discover what is outside of the island. Are there really sea women in the sea, or is it an invention of the man on the island? So maybe it's a novel about how we might get caught up in the wrong narrative, being it while we are in a relationship, in a company, or in a cult. It was very nice to discover this new and cozy bookstore in the city of Lyon. Thank you, Fiona, for having me and for giving me a copy of The Sea Women. It is a pretty heavy read though. Anyway, looking forward to see your store continue to flourish. Now, if you are in Lyon, don't forget to spend some time in a damn fine bookstore. And Fiona is so kind to offer the first 10 visitors who mention this Bold Books and Bones episode a nice free drink. The last English bookstore on this book hunting trip is located in the city of Dijon. It's a small, warm and cozy place. The store is actually not small, it is rather tiny, and it has a nice name, Burgundy Bookworm. And it definitely has a wonderful atmosphere to it. Now, Dijon is the capital of the historical Burgundy region. It is another area famous for its wine culture. So here again, you can combine many beautiful things from the south of France. I'm greeted by Kayla, a fine young lady from Congo who studies in Dijon and who helps out Brittany, the store owner, when she is away. I visited Burgundy Bookworm several times during the last years and I always liked it. It has mostly used books, so it is the perfect territory for when you are on a book hunting trip. The store has a ton of books from floor to ceiling, and you best take your time if you want to take in what is there. I found this little marvel called Tales from Shakespeare. It is a book originally written in 1807 and it was intended to introduce the plays of Shakespeare to young children. It has been heavily used and apparently many students wrote down some of their thoughts and left doodles. This book has had a life and I love to see these traces of what seems to be young previous readers. All the books in the store are €13 and the promotions are €3, so that is easy. Just like Brittany, Kayla is a warm-hearted person and I enjoyed very much our chat. I asked which book she would recommend and she pointed me to this book called Song of a Captive Bird by Jasmine Darshnik. It is a story of a woman in Iran who is a poet and a film director, and she decides to resist society's expectations and to pursue her own way in life. Although the book is a novel, it is based upon the life of Farrokhzad, a fascinating woman to say the least. Some call her the representative of creative and self-determined life. Thank you, Kayla, for pointing me to this book. It is to me by far the most valuable story I have read in the last years. Now, if you are in the beautiful historical city of Dijon, then don't miss this tiny bookstore in the old city center. It is more or less in the middle between the Place de la République and the Palace of the Duke of Burgundy, so you just can't miss it. And if you visit the store and you are one of the first 10 people who mention the Bold Books and Bones channel, then you will get a nice cup of coffee or a nice cup of tea. Thank you, Brittany, for running such a cozy bookstore, and thank you, Kayla, for your hospitality and for your great book recommendation. As promised, I have one bonus bookstore to share with you. How shall I start? Maybe just watch this. This place is incredible. Every book lover wants to spend hours here. There are so many cool things about this store. First, there is the name, Le Trouve, Tout du Livre. In English, it would mean something like the Find It All bookstore. It is located in a tiny village called Saint-Nazaire-d'Aude, and it is about 2 hours drive from Toulouse. The way to there is just marvelous. It is located right next to the Canal du Midi, which is a 240-kilometer long canal in southern France. You travel in a picturesque landscape with vineyards and sunflower fields. And when you arrive, you will meet Nelly and her friendly team. Nelly is the owner, and she has fantastic stories about this wonderful place. Everything started in the 1960s with her father, Raymond Gorgue, who lived in Paris and who wanted to buy a book that he could not find anywhere. He thought that maybe this would be a potential business, finding books for people. So becoming a kind of book Google long before the internet existed. One day someone asked him to find a particular school book that was hard to find, and he found it. He received 100 French francs for it. That was the currency before the euro, and voila, the business was born. After that, he kept on buying books, and his wife Anne-Marie supported his business financially. They first had a bookstore in Paris, and later, in the 1980s, they moved to this location. They needed space and sunshine. When he found this place, he called to his wife and said, "I found a nice location, but there is one problem. The place is way too big." And his wife replied, "Knowing you, the place will not be too big for too long." And she was right, of course. Raymond kept on buying books, and this is how this place became such a wonderful book heaven. In 2008, Nelly took over the store, and they have a solid local and international client base. They sell mostly French books. However, they have a small English book corner, and I bought this nice edition of Shakespeare's complete works. Now there is one more thing I like to show you about this magnificent place. Nelly took me to her stock area, and I thought that the store was big, but the stock is also huge. It is a wonderful, chaotic-looking second book heaven in the same building. Look at this. So to me it was more than worthwhile to visit this place during my book hunting trip in the south of France. The passion that Nelly and her team has for books is what every book lover will appreciate. And Nelly is so kind to offer the first 10 visitors to her store who mention this Bold Books and Bones episode a little gift. Also, if you would plan to go on a book hunting trip to this gorgeous place, and you really should, then I want to inform you that there is a cozy restaurant with great food and outside terrace right next to the bookstore. So you can have a bookstore trip in a beautiful scenery with great books and nice food. Just perfect. This episode is of course about supporting and celebrating independent bookstores. If we want to continue to enjoy all the benefits they create, then we have to support them by buying directly from them or by using online stores like bookshop.org, because they don't harm the local bookshops and they even share their profit from your online purchase with the local bookshops. In this way, they can continue to play their part in nurturing a positive culture in your and my neighborhood. And they are vital to keep the diversity of ideas and thoughts alive. Just look at the diversity of books that I found as a result of talking to real people in independent bookstores. They will guide you to so much more than only the bestsellers and the so-called classics. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you found some helpful information. Let me know where you normally do your book hunting. Is it in your neighborhood, or are you going to a particular city or another country? And maybe advise me on which area in the world I should plan my next book hunting trip. By the way, if you want more of this, then check out the book hunting in New York episode that I made on this channel. I gotta go now, and I hope to see you in the next episode of Bold Books and Bones. Meanwhile, stay curious and stay free. Bye for now.